Do you feel uncomfortable when people want to visit your home? Maybe not because you dislike them. You might enjoy spending time with friends. But the moment someone says, "Hey, can I come over?" something inside you tightens. Suddenly you start thinking about the noise, the disruption, someone being inside your personal space. And even though you like the person, a quiet tension appears. And the interesting part is, many people who feel this way rarely talk about it. Because from the outside, it can look strange. But if you've ever felt a quiet tension when someone suggests visiting your home, you're definitely not the only one. So why does something so normal for many people feel so uncomfortable for others? The answer has less to do with social skills, and much more to do with how the mind experiences space, energy, and emotional recovery. At first glance, this reaction might seem strange. Some people might assume that disliking guests means someone is antisocial, or simply doesn't enjoy being around others. But in most cases, that's not what's happening at all. Many people who feel this way actually care deeply about their friends and relationships. They enjoy conversations, shared moments, and spending time together. The difference is simply where that interaction happens. For some people, home is not a social space. It is a recovery space. It's the one place where the mind can slow down, release social pressure, and mentally recharge after facing the outside world. Home as a space to decompress. For many people, home is more than just a physical place. Psychologically, it becomes a safe zone. Throughout the day, the mind is constantly adjusting to the outside world. Work, conversations, noise, expectations, social cues. Even small interactions require attention and awareness. But when someone finally arrives home, the brain often shifts into a different mode. The body relaxes. The mind lowers its guard. Social vigilance slowly fades. Home becomes the one place where a person doesn't have to perform, explain themselves, or stay mentally on. But when someone suddenly enters that space, something subtle happens. When someone enters the house, the brain feels like it has to turn on again. And that quiet mental switch is often what creates the discomfort some people feel when guests come over. Sensory sensitivity. Another reason behind this reaction is something less visible: sensory sensitivity. Some people naturally process their environment more intensely. They notice small sounds, subtle movements, and tiny changes that others might not even register. Because of this, they tend to prefer environments that feel predictable and calm. But when someone visits, that balance changes. There is more noise, more movement. Objects shift places. The natural rhythm of the home suddenly changes. For many people, this feels completely normal. But for someone with higher environmental sensitivity, the brain immediately registers all these changes. What feels like a simple visit for one person can feel like sensory overload for another. This is especially common among deeply introverted and highly observant individuals, whose minds absorb far more information from their surroundings than most people realize. Domestic performance anxiety. There is another factor that many people recognize immediately once they hear it. For some individuals, having guests at home quietly activates a kind of domestic performance pressure. Even when no one expects anything special, the mind begins creating its own expectations. Suddenly, small thoughts appear one after another. Is the house clean enough? Is there something to offer? Should the place look better than it does right now? Before the visit even happens, the brain is already preparing for it like a small social event. This is sometimes described as domestic performance anxiety. The home stops feeling like a relaxed personal space and starts feeling like something that needs to be presented properly. And that subtle shift can turn a simple visit into something that requires far more mental energy than most people realize. Introversion is not the same as isolation. At this point, it's important to clarify something that is often misunderstood. Disliking guests at home does not automatically mean someone is antisocial or uninterested in relationships. In many cases, it simply reflects a different way the mind manages energy. Introversion, for example, doesn't mean someone dislikes people. It often means that social interaction drains mental energy more quickly. Because of that, many people who feel uncomfortable hosting visitors still enjoy meeting friends in other environments. They may feel perfectly happy talking for hours in a cafe, walking together in a park, or sharing a quiet conversation during a long walk. In other words, the connection itself is not the problem. The environment is. When visits are forced. Another subtle factor appears when visits stop feeling like a choice. When someone insists on coming over, even with good intentions, the person may begin to feel a quiet loss of control over their own space. Home is one of the few places where people decide what happens, when it happens, and how the environment feels. Because of that, personal space becomes a kind of psychological territory. And when that territory suddenly feels occupied without full comfort or willingness, the mind can react with silent tension. Not anger. Not rejection. Just a subtle feeling that something deeply personal has been interrupted. For some people, a home is more than a place to live. It's the only environment where the mind can truly slow down. A quiet space where there is no need to perform, no pressure to interact, and no expectation to stay socially on. And protecting that space is not about rejecting others. It's about protecting mental balance. Some people recharge through social activity. Others recharge through solitude and calm surroundings. And for those people, keeping their home peaceful is not selfish. For them, protecting that space isn't rejection. It's emotional maintenance.